And on that note, we want to turn just to the north of South Africa, to the country of Zambia, and we are very, very honored to be joined here on the show by Dr. Fred Mbembe, who is the president of the Socialist Party of Zambia. Dr. Mbembe, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. And my first question here to you is, Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States, was recently there in your country of Zambia, and she took the opportunity to take a shot at China and to essentially make some points about Zambia's debt and relations with China. And I guess I just wonder how you respond to this idea that the biggest threat to Zambia, in the eyes of the United States, it seems, appears to be China.
The biggest threat actually is the USA, not China. China has never threatened our sovereignty. It has never threatened our independence. We have never been subjected to any form of mistreatment, maltreatment, exploitation by China. But we cannot say the same about the USA.
Can you actually give us an idea of what the U.S. relationship specifically is with Zambia? Because, I mean, if the U.S. is making all these accusations about China being predatory, I mean, what else would you call the U.S. relationship with Zambia if not predatory? But can you break down for us what that relationship looks like?
Today, the USA is setting a military office in Zambia. China does not have a military presence here. When we were being bombed by the apartheid regime, by the racist minority regime in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, we asked the USA for protection. We asked the USA to help us with air defense systems. They declined to do so. We had to turn to China. It is only the Chinese who helped us with the MiG-19s and later with MiG-21s and some tanks. The USA refused. We were blockaded. We needed a rail system to get our goods to the ports of Dar es Salaam. The USA declined to finance a rail system from Zambia to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. It was only the Chinese who came, sacrificed whatever little they had at that time. The China of that time is not the prosperous China of today. They had limited resources. They spent over $500 million they didn't have. They lost 70 citizens trying to construct a rail for us, which they accomplished in 5 years. China has been there for us. The USA has not been there for us. When Southern Africa was on fire fighting the apartheid regime, the USA sided with the apartheid regime of South Africa. They did not side with the African people. They never supported the ANC. They labeled Mandela a terrorist, but today they exalt Mandela in all sorts of ways. SWAPO was a terrorist organization in Namibia. ZANLA and ZIPRA in Zimbabwe were terrorist organizations. They were not on our side. They were on the side of the oppressors of this continent. They participated in the killing of our leaders. The USA participated in the killing of Patrice Lumumba. The USA participated in the toppling of Kwame Nkrumah. The USA participated in the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi. The USA participated in so many coups on the African continent. China has never participated in any coup. China has never killed a single African. How many Africans had the USA killed? What has China done against us? Compared to what the US has done against us?
You know, one of the things that came out of, or allegedly came out of, the US-Africa summit that took place here in Washington was this so-called memorandum of understanding between the U.S., the DRC, and Zambia around the electric vehicle supply chain, with the U.S. making sort of insinuations that they were going to help DRC and Zambia harness their resources and build electric car batteries. It didn't actually say that when you read the fine print, but nevertheless, this is the implication they're giving to the world. So I wonder how you react to this memorandum of understanding and the idea coming from the United States that somehow they're going to help Zambia industrialize.
It's very strange that the USA government can directly append its signature as a government to a business deal. They usually send their corporations to do that. Doesn't it raise questions that the USA government now wants to get into car batteries directly, signing a memorandum of understanding? The issue is Zambia and Congo and Zimbabwe today have got the critical minerals the 21st century technologies we need. So the interest of the USA government in DRC, in Zambia, and in Zimbabwe is very high now for economic reasons. They are also worried that China will have access or a good access to these critical minerals. They want to keep China out of this region, out of reach to these critical minerals. Is that in our interest? No. These critical minerals need to be utilized by all citizens of this world, by all human beings on this planet should benefit from that. But more so us who are privileged to have these minerals in our territories. That's the people of Zambia, the people of DRC, and the people of Zimbabwe. The Americans are trying to create military installations in Zambia. And they have stated it clearly. Zambia is in the front line of their attacks, of their struggle against China. They didn't hide it. They said this at the time the president of Zambia was in the USA to sign that memorandum. They disclosed this themselves. They have never denied it. Even the Zambian government has never denied. So there is an anti-China crusade, and they want Zambia to be a champion of that. We are a puppet regime that is being used today to champion American interests. There's nothing in that deal for us. We had a deal between Zambia and DRC. There was an agreement signed. We were shocked that there's another second agreement now joining the USA to it. For what?
Well, there is also the issue of that the U.S. constantly raises of the accusation that China is doing debt trap diplomacy, which I know is a term that you've heard. And sometimes they'll use Zambia as an example that China makes these unfair deals with countries like Zambia that leave Zambia and other countries in debt and that allow Chinese companies to take advantage. So I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about what is the relationship between China and Zambia and surrounding countries, and what is the actual dynamic between China and these African countries in terms of these various loans that they're giving?
I think let's look at the figures. Today, only 30% of Zambia's foreign debt is held by China. 70% is held by Western countries and private individuals, well, private organizations. Most of the private debt today is between the USA and Britain in terms of private market bonds. If there's a debt trap, who holds the 30% and who holds 70%, who has trapped Zambia? If there's a debt trap, really, it's the USA and Britain that are holding Zambia at ransom in terms of debt. China only holds 30%. And what has that 30% debt been spent on? It has spent on developing hydropower stations, airports, roads, water systems, hospitals, schools, government buildings, and so on. What does the 70% that we hold from the Western countries, mainly USA and Britain, what do we have to show for it? Speculative, profiteering debt. There's very little that I can tell you that this is what it was spent on. That debt was actually spent on paying some of the debts, paying refunds, of VAT to Western corporations, mining corporations. So who has trapped who? If there's a debt trap, it's the Western countries that have trapped us into a debt. The IMF is coming in with an extended credit facility. For what? Just to enable Zambia to meet its debts, its debt obligations. To who? To the Western corporations, to the Western private entities. It's not about China. The debt that we have, the problems is not because of China debt, no. It's the debt we owe Western institutions. 70% of our foreign debt is with Western institutions. And that's what they want us to pay back. It's not the internal debt, the local debt that the Zambian government holds that they want us to pay. If they wanted us to develop, they would help us to pay the internal debt that would generate more production. So the whole thing of a debt trap by China is a lie. And I think that lie has been exposed enough. Now they are trying to get China into an agreement, into a deal with them to make China pay or help Zambia repay the debts to Western entities. And China is saying, no, this can't be done that way. If they need to help Zambia with this debt to China, it has to be done outside the IMF framework. China was not part of the 70% debt we owe to Western entities. China has no problems with the debts owed to it by Zambia. The default that we had was with Western institutions, with Eurobonds. It wasn't with China. There's not been a default with China. China has not raised the alarm of Zambia failing to meet its obligations. So the debt trap is with Western institutions, is with USA institutions, with British institutions. It's not with China. It's a lie. That's why today they are trying to plead with China to help them get their debts out of Zambia.
You know, I know that the Socialist Party of Zambia, of which you were the president, is one of maybe the fastest growing party in Zambia. So finally, I was hoping you could just talk a little about the work of the SPZ and also your vision for Zambia.
We want a prosperous Zambia, a peaceful Zambia. Our main objective is to make life happier for our people. We have poverty levels of 80% in some of the provinces of our country. That's too high, poverty levels. We have rural poverty in Zambia averaging 76%. That's too high poverty. We have stunted children in many of our areas. We have problems with kids going to school. We have problems with families just having enough food. Hunger is looming all the time. When you have 80% poverty levels, you know that food is a problem. You know that housing is a problem. You know that health services are a problem. You know that sanitation is a problem. You know that access to clean water is a problem. Our main and immediate task is to deal with these basic problems. We have high levels of unemployment. We need to deal with that. So the key primary areas that we have to address immediately is education, health, and agriculture to ensure that our people have got access to food. Even if you provided the free education to a child who doesn't have access to food, the child can't learn in school without eating. Even if you provided a classroom and a teacher to a child who has no access to health services and no food, that child will not be able to learn. So we have to deal with these basic issues that affect our people. It's not about bombastic words of socialism and this and that. It's about the basic things that our people need. Our people are not fighting for ideas in someone's head. They are fighting for the betterment of their living conditions. They want to live a happier life and in peace. That's what the Socialist Party is about.
Dr. Fred Mbembe, President of the Socialist Party of Zambia, we really appreciate you joining us here on the Freedom Side to help us clarify all of these issues.
Thank you very much.